The rupee weakening has been one of the major headlines in the past few months. The currency went from 90 to 93 to 96 to almost 97 in the span of 3 to 4 months. On Friday, the RBI came up with measures to stop this depreciation. Of course, the measures were highly anticipated given the fast pace of weakness. Now, what are the two key measures? One key move that the RBI made to attract foreign inflow is that it opened a special window to attract foreign currency from NRIs. Banks can bring in these deposits and swap the dollars with the RBI at a concessional rate. So here, the banks too don't bear the hedging cost for the dollars they receive. Normally, banks have to hedge the currency risk on these deposits in the market, which can be expensive. Under the new scheme, the RBI is effectively absorbing most or all the hedging cost through the swap facility. Second, external commercial borrowing or ECB. Normally, companies borrowing abroad have to hedge their currency risk. But given how volatile the rupee is, that hedge can be expensive. Under the new measures, a PSU raises a dollar loan overseas through an ECB. The borrower then brings those dollars into India, and through its bank, the dollars can be swapped with the RBI for rupees at a concessional fixed swap cost of 1.5% per annum. At maturity, the reverse swap takes place. So again, this is the central bank bearing the hedging cost of all the dollars that are coming in. These are large measures. But how has the rupee reacted? How much foreign capital is actually expected and what is the outlook for rupee going ahead? I spoke with Sakshi Gupta, principal economist at HDFC Bank, to understand this. It's Thursday, the 11th of June. I am Rosebud Gonsalves and this is the Morning Brief. So it's been a couple of days since the announcement came. And I started by asking Sakshi, how has the rupee reacted?
So, of course, after the RBI announced measures last week to attract capital inflow, we have seen some initial, positive reaction in the rupee, where, at least on Friday, we saw some retracement in the dollar rupee levels. However, this week, I think there continues to be, a lot of anxiety around what is happening globally with the West Asia conflict, oil prices remaining very volatile and global yields, kind of inching up. I would anticipate that, over the coming weeks, once the capital inflow driven by some of the measures that RBI announced, including the FCNRB window, as well as the concessional swap rate for ECB borrowing by PSUs. I think once some of that capital starts coming in, I think that's when you should start seeing some moderation in the dollar rupee spot rate. I think a reflection also of markets' reaction to the announcement is visible in the forward market where forward premiums have already come down. Right. So I think that is a clear signal of how positioning or how the market is positively reacting to the measures that have been announced so far.
So we have this concessional swap up till September. So in terms of levels, where can we see or where do you think the rupee would be by October?
Right. As I said, that over the coming weeks, as the capital flow starts coming in, of course, there is some appreciation bias that I see for the rupee over the coming, 2 or 3 months. However, that being said, what is the extent of rupee gain that we would see would depend on a number of things. Number one is, of course, the global situation. Right, I think that has a meaningful impact in limiting the rupee's gain. Second important variable here is to think about what the RBI is going to do, because once you start getting in these dollar flows, some of those flows can actually be used to reduce the RBI's short forward dollar book, which is close to $95 billion as of April end. I anticipate that they will kind of, start reducing the size of, that book, at least for maturities, up to 1 year, which again puts some sort of floor for the rupee. Third is the movement in the rupee or the gains in the rupee would also be determined by the extent of capital that comes in. Both the FCNR and the ECB measure, I think, can get in somewhere between 50 to $70 billion. Now, if the dollar flow is actually more than this, then I think that there is greater upside for the rupee. However, if it falls short, this $50 billion number, minimum that we are looking at, then the pace of appreciation in the rupee could be lower. At this point, we are thinking that there is a possibility that the rupee moves towards a 93 level or thereabout over the coming months, which is the quarter ending September. Post that, I think that once some of that capital flow is behind us, I think global conditions will again start dominating or being the primary driver for the rupee again, and at which point we'll get an idea of whether there are further pressures that are building up or not.
Right, makes sense. Would you have a breakup of how the flows would be? Like what would come through FCNR route and what would come through the ECB route?
Right. Yes. So we have done some preliminary estimations right now. Of course, these are subject to, variation, of course, and we'll get an idea over the coming weeks what sort of momentum we are seeing. So currently we are saying that look on the FCNR. Let's look at historical perspective. So 2013, when this window had been introduced, we were able to get about 26, $27 billion under that window for the FCNR deposits. This time around, I think that since RBI will be bearing the FX risk and the hedging cost, I think banks are in a position to offer attractive rates over and above where US yields are currently. I mean, between 4.15 to 4.5. So another 100 basis, 150 basis points above that is something that banks can offer, which means that you will be able to attract flows in. Moreover, I think that there is no explicit deterrence towards getting leveraged money under this window, which adds to the flow calculation. So we are saying that we are estimating 30 to 35 billion to come in on the FCNR window. And on the ECB front, our initial estimate is that the combined ECB borrowing, both from PSUs as well as, this window is also extended to banks, AD banks. We are estimating close to 20 billion to come in from that side. So a cumulative of somewhere around, 50, 55 billion, like I said, with an upside to this number, which we'll get to know over the coming weeks.
Okay, that's a huge inflow that we can see over this short period of time. Will these inflows also somehow affect or improve FII flows in equities too?
Not necessarily. I think the FII story then has a number of other elements, right? So, on the debt side, of course, with the change in taxation that we have seen that the government has come in with, and also with RBI announcing that, a number of other securities that will be included in the fully automatic route, I would anticipate that that improves the flow, FPI flow outlook for the debt market. But on the equity side, I mean, there are so many other issues that are currently weighing on the equity flow bit. One, of course, we know is the West Asia conflict. One condition for that flow to improve would have to be that we see a meaningful de-escalation in the conflict and oil prices coming off. Secondly, is the AI trade, where a lot of global capital seems to be chasing a particular AI story, right? And everything related to AI. Unfortunately, that play is not very strong for India currently. And therefore, if that story is continuing, I think that is another dampener. And third, I think we have to also kind of take into consideration the fact that a lot of capital actually has been rotating out of India and moving into countries like China. Given this metrics, I would be a little cautious in extrapolating and saying that, look, because we have announced these measures and there is capital that is going to come in, it will definitely have positive spillovers on FPI investment in equity. I think the equity element still remains a bit of a question mark at this stage.
Okay, got it, got it. So, in one of your responses, you spoke about how these inflows would help RBI to sort of contain their short forward book. Yesterday, there was also a report that said that it crossed the 110 billion mark. That's quite a huge number. And then on the other hand, we also have reserves. So, with the inflows that come in from the measures, can we expect the reserves also to go up along with the net short forward book getting subdued a little bit?
Right. So this is a bit complicated. So let me break this down. Okay. Let's talk about the FX reserves first. The impact of these measures and with capital coming in, basically the transaction would be that banks or PSUs would enter the swap agreements with the RBI and therefore would be giving dollars to the RBI right now. Right, which essentially means that your FX reserves would initially go up by broadly the same amount to which you get the capital inflow. Right. If we get $50 billion and that is swapped with the RBI, then RBI's FX reserves would rise by that much amount. Secondly, when we are talking about the forward book, now what happens is that because you are doing a swap, it essentially means that RBI's short dollar forward book is actually going to go up because you are getting into a forward agreement, right? So your longer end maturities, so 3 year, 5 year, depending on what is the duration of these transactions between banks and PSUs and RBI, your forward book will actually at the longer end would actually go up. At the short end, so for maturities up to 1 year, RBI can actually use the increase in its FX reserves that it gets to kind of pay off or let the short end of the book mature. Within the forward book, you will find a shift in the maturity profile where long end maturities will go up, but at the short end, I'm anticipating that some of that will reduce. Now, the third thing is that this essentially implies that perhaps your cumulative forward book size remains the same. You're saying latest estimates are pegging it above $100 or whatever. So maybe it remains the same because you have reduced the short end and you've increased the long end. But my anticipation goes a little bit further. I'm expecting that they will then go ahead and also absolutely reduce the overall, forward book. They will try to bring that down as well. They try and do that, then I think that the appreciation in the rupee that we are talking about, or the extent of appreciation in the rupee that we are talking about, will be considerably lower or short lived in nature.
Okay, right. So the up to 1 year segment would see some moderation then.
Yes, is what I'm anticipating because they let the short end, I mean, up to 1 year maturities roll off. So at the long end, you will actually see the long end maturities on your forward book go up. And if you go back to 2013, when we had a similar window, right, a similar concessional window that the RBI had kind of clubbed with the FCNR, deposit scheme, even that time, if you see, your forward book actually started going up.
As Sakshi said, 2013 too had a major rupee weakness episode where the currency had weakened from 63 to 68. That had prompted the RBI to come up with measures. Raising dollars from NRIs was a measure used at that time too. After the measures were announced in 2013, the rupee strengthened from 68 to 59. But what will happen now? How long will the war go on? And how will the rupee react? To know more, keep listening to the Morning Brief. This episode was produced by Anirban Chaudhary, sound designed by Rajas Nayak. Keep listening to our podcasts on your preferred listening platform.